The opinions expressed on this podcast are those of the speakers and presenters. They do not represent the opinions or views of the Equita Group, Equita Final Expense Services, or its affiliates.
Hello, everybody. Chase Urick here at the Equita home office. Kind of starting to turn this thing into a little bit of a studio here as we put the podcast equipment together. I got Ben Bowman just right next door to me. I got Ryan Karras just to the other side of me here next door. Things are just banging here. We got a lot going on. Business is booming. You guys are killing it. And so if you're an agent right now who's joining us live, working with EFES, welcome. We appreciate you joining us. From the live attendance, it looks like we've got a lot of people plugged in right now. And it doesn't surprise me that we do, because the message that we put out this morning to everybody about our guest, who we have on, that's probably why we have everybody tuned in and have such a high number in. We've got a young, up-and-coming stud on today. His name is Samir. Samir works with Josh Jensen and Rita over in the Northeast, and he's killing it. You're going to get an opportunity to listen to Samir tell you his story, and just to kind of tell you a little bit about Samir. Samir, over 19,000, his first full month on the program. This month, already over 20,000. And he's only getting better. That's the scary thing about it. Still fairly new to the business. So it's an awesome podcast that we have in store for you guys here in just a moment. But first, I want to start with just an announcement, just a reminder for all of you out there, whether you're on joining us live or you're in podcast land, not with EFES. EFES is going to be in Las Vegas, March 21st, March 22nd. We're going to be having our annual convention, not a road show. It's not going to be a 2-day, 48-hour training course. There will be training, but this is going to be a little bit different. This is the annual convention, a kickoff to the new year where we're ready to rock and roll and light it up. Already off to a great start, but where better to do it? Where better to have the event than Las Vegas? I can't think of many places, but we really heard from the field. Everybody said, hey, let's go to Vegas, let's go to Vegas, let's go to Vegas. Didn't do one on the West Coast when we did our road shows last year. So we said, let's go ahead and kick the new year off. Let's go to Vegas. And we have had a ton of people RSVP already. If you're on the call right now on the podcast, you're listening in and you haven't had a chance to RSVP, you don't know how to get there, you don't know how you're going to make your way, just get there. It costs you nothing to attend. All you got to do is pay for your trip there and where you're staying. It's going to be a good one. The opportunity to rub elbows with Lovely Johnson or the infamous Ben Bowman, Josh Jensen, Rita, Cole McCoy, Peter Walker. If you make the trip just for the Medicare alone, the portion of the agenda that we have dedicated to Medicare alone, it'll be worth the money spent, I promise you. The big thing I'll throw out there to you, though, is if you have not RSVP'd and you have not booked your flight, get on it. We did this March 21st and March 22nd. That's right in the thick of March Madness. And it doesn't matter where you stay. You're going to be just a matter of a few miles away from the event. But get there. I promise you, this is going to be different, and it's worth your trip. If you're not on leads yet, you're not doing this full time yet, be at the event. You're going to learn something. You're going to really kind of help yourself make that leap of faith to get going. I did not want to harp on this, but I did want to throw it out there because we had a lot of people that I reached out to this past week that were like, oh, I didn't listen to that podcast. I must have missed it. Didn't see the email. This is an event of all events for this year that you want to be at. Don't wait for the next one. There may not be another one this year. This is the big one, and you want to be there. So March 21st, March 22nd, Las Vegas, Nevada, EFESRoadshows.com. EFESRoadshows.com. Go there, RSVP, get yourself hooked up. We've got TNT, Tom and Tony and the boys. Their team has been RSVPing all night long out on the West Coast. So if you haven't yet jumped in, let's go, and let's get you going. So with that being said, got to get to Samir. We've gone long enough without talking to him, so let's go ahead and get rolling. Kill the music. Samir is on the line. We've got him live with us here. Samir, how are you this morning?
Good. How you doing, Chase? How's everything?
Everything is gravy, man. It's Friday. Appreciate you spending some time with us. You're always out doing your thing, knocking and rocking and seeing somebody. So I want to say thank you and much appreciated for you spending some time with us today, bud.
No problem. Anytime.
All right, so I remember the first time I actually heard you speak, heard your name. I was actually in the car in Philadelphia with Josh Jensen. Roger Chan was in the back seat. We were just kind of moseying around Philadelphia the day before the roadshow event kicked off. And leading up to that event, Josh Jensen just would not stop talking about you. And he's like, man, this guy's going to be a killer. Just wait. And the one thing I've learned is that Josh does talk a lot, but when Josh talks, there's substance. If Josh puts the stamp of approval on somebody, I mean, he's got the gift of gab, no doubt. It's part of the reason why he and I get along so well. But goodness gracious, when he says, hey, wait, you're going to love this Rita guy. Rita's going to be fantastic. I mean, when he puts a stamp of approval on somebody, it always works out. And he spoke very highly of you. And he said, this guy's going to be phenomenal. Just watch. So I heard you, and I think you and I even kind of had some dialogue on that call. That was our introduction to each other briefly there. And just absolutely have set it on fire since you got started. Let's talk about when you first got into the business. Was it most recently here when we had that conversation? Was that when you first got started?
Well, I got started in December, but it pretty much doesn't count. I had like maybe 2 policies sold. It was like towards the end of December, something like that, But really, I started in January. The first 15, 17 days of January, I only worked like quarter overtime. It was like maybe 10 to 15 hours a week type of thing. And then more like the last 2 weeks of January, I did it full time. And then, this month so far, I worked until the 16th of the month, and I haven't worked since the 16th only because I'm finishing up things that I had going before I started. I have to finish this up, and then I'm going to go back in it in a few days. But Josh been Josh been talking to me about this business since when he started. I think it was like 2011, maybe 2011, 2012 when he started. That's when he was trying to recruit me, and I just started. It took a little while.
Fantastic. So were you introduced to the business by Josh? Like you guys had a conversation and he introduced you to the business?
Yeah, that was like I said, that was roughly speaking 2012, 2011. He was selling insurance, and he told me to go do my thing with insurance, but I was just doing my own thing. I wasn't interested at the moment. And then some time passed, he tried again. And this time around, he was just more persistent than ever because I think that he really likes EFES versus anywhere else he might have been before, He speaks very highly about people around him. Ben, you, and others. It's more like, when you work and money is good, that's good. But when the community is strong, that's good too. Whenever I have a question in a group, people always reply to me, always help me out. Roger, you, Ben, Josh, Rita, everybody. So I mean that's important, especially if you're a new agent. If you're sitting in a house and you don't know what you're doing, and it takes people 15 minutes to reply to you, there's a very good chance you're going to lose that sale, especially when you have multiple questions. But when the answer comes within seconds, a minute if you're not lucky, that helps out a lot. So
it's a game changer. It's definitely a game changer for sure.
Yeah, the foundation of the company is going to be the foundation of the agent.
I love hearing you say that. I know that Josh talks a lot about that as well with new producers about all of the resources that they have at their disposal. As we talk about your introduction to the business, and we talk about kind of what's the mental makeup, what's your approach to the business, how you do, what your routine is. If you had to pinpoint it, you don't have to be one or the other. You can be both. But we love to ask each one of our guests on this podcast, are you a door knocker at heart? Are you an appointment setter? What's your main method? How do you go about it?
Well, I do. Like I said, up to this point, I've been doing only Facebook leads, right? Because my DM hasn't come in yet. I think I'm getting them like within days. But with Facebook, I think it's more of an impulse thing. You know, they click on an ad, they want to see what it is. So I think those are the best to door knock. I think you'll get the best results door knocking. They are farther apart, and that's why direct mail works better because you can see twice as many people. You know, when I knock on 5 doors, Josh is already on 12 doors. You know, there's not something that I can do being on Facebook because I have to drive farther apart. So I can see why people say direct mail is the king. You know, obviously, if you're going to see twice as many people than me, chances are you're going to sell more than me. You know, no matter what the case is, you know. So I don't like everybody because I think with Facebook leads you'll get better results don't knocking. And that's pretty much it. But as far as like the routine goes, you know, I don't really stress sales only because I feel like as long as you connect with the person and you create an emotion, you know, what you're selling is not really the point. You know, whether you're selling phones or whether you're selling cars or whether you're selling insurance, you know, that especially when the person reached out to you first, they're at least somewhat interested, right? I mean, nobody goes looking for a certain type of car if they don't want that certain type of car, at least to some extent. And the same goes for, you know, final expense insurance. If people looking at it, it's at least they're somewhat interested, you know, so you got to spark that interest even louder and click with them. That's the only thing.
Yeah, and I'm fired up for you because you have been absolutely killing it on the Facebook leads, which we talk about all the time. They're great in supplementation. They're great to build the business off of, particularly in your first few months getting started. You've killed it off of them. And you actually, I'm excited, as I mentioned before, I'm excited because you actually have your first set of direct mail leads coming your way tomorrow, which is, I mean, if you're door knocking and you're rocking and rolling on the Facebook leads, goodness gracious, I can't wait to see what you do on the direct mail. So that's exciting. And I know that working with Josh, you'll progress and you'll get more comfortable to where you're probably going to be slaying it on the phone in no time with the appointment setting. Let's talk about goals and still being semi-new to it, but still already receiving a high level of success right out of the gate. Let's talk about your goals. What do you have a daily goal? Do you have a weekly goal? Let's talk about your goals a little bit.
Well, I think, you know, as far as weekly goal is great. And then just in case you have a bad week or not as good as you want it to be, you know, change it to biweekly. Meaning, like, let's say if your goal is $5,000 a week, but you sold 4, then you could do 6 next week to make it up, and then you can correct it before the month is over. So, you know, I like to be doing $20,000 a month. You know, that's like a good foundation for me. I think that, see, if you have like a beyond fantastic month, and then you have a very low month, whatever your average is, if you could do that throughout the months, it's pretty much the same thing. So, you know, there's 2 ways to approach it. Is to go hard 1 month, and, you know, next month maybe your numbers won't be as high, but whatever your average is, that I look at that number. So I'm either going to do it every month, or I'm going to have those explosive months and then maybe not so explosive. But you know, I like to set a number like right now at around 20,000. But again, I have very little idea what I'm actually saying because I'm new to this. You know, I only done this full time since middle of January to February 16th. So, you know, I'm only going by what I know so far. And what I know so far, I think 20,000 is possible. You just got to put in the work. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're looking at something that other people doing, then obviously it's working, or other people wouldn't be able to do it. So then it's just to figure out how you click with the customer and how you create that emotion for them to get it from you. Because the truth is, people going to get their coverage. It's just the question is whether they're going to get it from you or from somebody else. So you're not selling something that they're not going to get or they don't need. You know, you're selling something to them that 100% sure they're going to get it. It's just a matter of time whether they're going to get it from you or from somebody else. So if you, I think the most important thing is clicking with a client. Meaning, like, when I'm knocking on the door, I like my energy to match their energy. That's the main thing that I do. So if the person is calm, I'm calm. If the person is hype, I'm hype. So I like to read off their energy and go with that because I think people feel more comfortable like that. So, I've been to plenty of houses when the lady said that, she had 4 or 5 agents come by, but she never buys anything. And then she gets it from me for whatever reason. She feels comfortable. So I think making the client feel comfortable because you are at their house, you don't want them to feel awkward.
Yeah, absolutely. Building that rapport is imperative to having them be able to open up and have dialogue with you. You have to have that trust. Go ahead.
No, what do you call it? I think what you say is important, right? Because we all have different approach. Josh is like more in your face type of guy. Me, people think I'm aggressive at the door, but it's actually kind of the opposite. Sometimes, like I said, like my energy is really, really laid back at the door. Unless I see a person with a lot of energy, then I go at a different way. But I think what you say is important, but how you say it, your body language and your tone of voice is the most important out of everything. It's not really what you say. I remember, like me and Josh used to sell phones back in 2005. And I was trying to say the same thing. What you say is least important versus what how you say it. And just to demonstrate it, there was a new hire, and we used to have to greet people. We didn't have a store. It was like a little cart in the middle of the mall. So I said that I'm going to greet the next customer and sell them a phone talking about only a microwave and nothing else, just a microwave the whole time. So, and that's what I did. I greeted the customer talking about the microwave. The whole thing was about microwave, and then I sold them a phone, just to demonstrate like what you say is not as important as your body language, your confidence, your voice, and your timing is really important. And then if you add the fact that you know information and you know what you're talking about, that can be a deadly combination. Now, in my case, I don't know a lot because I'm new. Like people like, Josh, Holden, Roger, those guys know information way, way, way more than me. Like, I can't wait to have as much knowledge as them because then it just makes the whole thing easier. But, well, how you say it is and it's very easy to knock on the door with the wrong type of energy because in our business, if you close 25%, you're doing fantastic, right? But I still 75% no's. So, and those are the solid ones. So, when you get 6 no's in a row, don't go to door number 7 with the energy like, oh, you're about to get a no. You have to go there completely fresh and don't let the last person dictate your energy for the next client based on what the last person said. Last person might have been upset because he missed his favorite episode of Jerry Springer. I don't know. But the next person is just fine. They just had good breakfast and they feel great. So
whenever when you're doing your approach to the day-to-day and you're going out and you're knocking on doors, I'd love to talk about, even though as new as you are at the business, the success you have found, there's substance to your daily routine. So do you mind sharing with us, how do you get your day started and how do you progress throughout the day? Do you have it partitioned out to, I'm going to door knock this time or I'm going to get out in the field this time? Share us how your day gets going.
Well, to do it completely, like I like to wake up without the alarm clock. I like to wake up on my own. I think I can be more productive like that if I had as much sleep as I needed. So, sometimes it's 8 o'clock, sometimes it's 9:30 is like the latest I will wake up. So, after that, I got to make sure I eat and I chill out for about 15 minutes. I don't do anything at all. Get my mind right. And then I correct like all if I have some mistakes. And I write a lot of trance. So that was a learning experience. So if I have any mistakes, I correct it. And then I just head out the door and I go door knocking. And because I have Facebook leads, I don't really plan my route because I know the cities very well in my state. I'm not in one spot, so I just go door knocking. Like I don't wanna think too deep about it because I think that any situation you look at, if you want to find problems, you will. And if you want to find solutions, you always will find solutions. So it depends what you're looking for. I rather focus on solutions than problems. So I don't want to sit down and talk myself into this is not going to be a good day, because I'll find many reasons to do that. But then, once you get it going, I think the most important part is just simply taking action. Just taking action. If you got 30 leads and you go talk to as many people as possible out of those 30 leads, it's very likely you're going to have a successful week. What range of success, that will play out over time. But sorry about the text messages. My phone's going off. But you're going to have success, because if you buy 100 leads in a month and you go talk to 40 people out of those 100 and you sold, whatever it was, 7,500, then if you would have just seen 80 people out of that 100, you probably would have done close to 15,000. So my thing is very simple. Just go see the person and go talk to that person. Not the wife, not the husband, not the family member, but them. That's my main thing, is just to get to the person who clicked on the ad, since I do Facebook, and just go talk to that person. That's my main thing. If I start thinking too deep, I'll talk my way out of what works and start doing things that don't work. So I think that when you look at something, don't start doubting yourself whether you could do it or not, because if somebody else is doing it, then it works. So when I look at the leaderboard and there's multiple people selling 20,000 a month, I mean, Roger got 30,000 a month, 30,000 this month already, on the shortest month of the year too. That's impressive. So if there's multiple people doing it, then it's possible. Now you just got to figure out how it works with you, and and you just have to show your personality to the client. Not exactly duplicate what the next person is doing, because I don't think that's gonna work. But take what they do as a foundation and then put your touch into it, like as far as your personality goes. And I think that goes in sales in general, no matter what the item is.
Right now, with you doing it and being as fresh as you are to the business, but once again, I'll be redundant, still finding success very quickly in a high level of success. A lot of people push to hit 20,000 in a month, and it takes them a long time to get there. It's not easy. It gets talked about as if it's easy sometimes, but it's not easy. You've done that now, 19 last month and over 20 already this month. You're killing it and you're doing great. Let's talk about some of the things that you see already still being fairly new to the business, that are maybe some of your bad habits that you're working on. What would you say is your worst habit right now that you've got?
I mean, it's not so much a bad habit, but I can see how it could be bad. Like if you look at a leaderboard, right, and you look at your top 10, top 15 guys, or whatever the case may be, they have certain type of personality, right? They're not some of them might become, but one way or another they're aggressive to those things, because otherwise they wouldn't be successful. So there's a lot of people that you won't get along with that you used to get along with, like as far as the friendship goes, because you want to achieve things that other people don't. And you just got to separate yourself from people who don't have the same goals as you. And you'll be looked at as an oddball, or you'll be looked at as a person that may be selfish or whatever the case may be, but you just have bigger goals to achieve than some of the people that you may know. So being goal-oriented type of person, that's going to make you look like you're selfish, or you may be not the same as you used to be. But just always understand that you're on the right path of doing that. Because the way I look at things and everything in life is, if you don't do that, what is the alternative option? The alternative option is to sit around and talk about people that are doing things, or be one of the people that's actually doing things. And being broke is not fun. There was a time where I slept in my car, and that wasn't good. And I said I'm never going back. And like, this is a true story. Like I had $5. That's all I had. And I was sleeping in my car, and I was like, what can I do with this? So I went to buy a large pizza. I cut it in 16 slices because it was $5. Cut it in 16 slices, and I sold it to drunk people at the bar, you know, and I made $80 with it. Went to get another one, did it again. Flip, you know, $10 into 160, and then I registered my car and I started delivering pizza. With that, I started doing the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So if I sat around and just felt sorry for myself, you know, nothing would have changed. And I think being competitive in life and being energized is very important. And a lot of people won't understand you because a lot of people are not like that, you know. And you have to surround yourself by motivated individuals, go-getting individuals, because I'm very sure that when I meet the people who are doing great, I will get along with them. I'm 100% sure, because they're just not afraid of things. They're not afraid to start a conversation. They're not afraid to introduce themselves. They're not afraid to talk about things. They're good, they're bad, and those are the kind of people that I like. So as far as the only thing that I can see how people may look at negative is being too goal oriented or being too motivated, whatever the case may be. But like I said, if that's the case, then what is the opposite of that? Is to sit around and not do all those things, and I think that's worse. So
it's a great outlook to have. Actually, it's a great outlook to have. You are 100% correct. If you're too ambitious, if you're too goal oriented, and you're too hungry to go get it, then being the opposite of that just means you're apathetic. You're whatever, you know. And that's not how you don't see that in the DNA of top producers. So it's a very, very good way of putting it, and probably the best way I've heard it put. Actually, it's very, very it's a very good way of articulating it. Let's talk about your method of writing business, where you go, who your carrier lineup is, because you've got a pretty diversified lineup. And you do a really, really good job of making sure that you're writing, you know, the amount of business you need in terms of the ratio for GI and non-GI. You've got 20,000 on the books right now, and you only have a couple of cases that have been on guaranteed issue. So share with us a little bit about the carriers you work with and why you work with them.
I write a lot of trans, you know. I don't know why, but I keep running into people who have COPD. You know, it just happens to me. And, you know, Josh is like, I haven't seen anybody who has to write that much trans. And it's not like I'm doing it because, you know, that's my choice or whatever. But, you know, COPD, that would be the way to go. So I do a lot of trans. I do a little bit of prosperity, a little bit of foresters. And lately, like last maybe 3 out of 5 sales or whatever the case may be, I did Mutual of Omaha. That's pretty much my go-to. Oh yeah, Royal Neighbors of America. I do those. So I say trans and Royal Neighbors of America is my go-to, and then a little bit of foresters and prosperity. I might have my formula wrong because, you know, I haven't done it long enough to know any better, but that's where I'm at right now. You know, I understand why people, when they're new, they don't want to do trans because it's a longer process, but also they take a lot of things that other people don't, you know. So I like trans. I like the fact that they'll work with me.
Yeah, I see that you also you started to kind of grow a little bit more into selling a little bit more with prosperity. Are you using the EAP process with them right now?
Yes, I'm using the EAP process.
How's that going for you? Is it running smooth, getting the instant decision pretty easy for you?
Oh, I love to use prosperity because it's a quick app. It's easy. You know, as long as your client qualifies for that, is an amazing company to write for. So absolutely no problem. Anytime you can have a quick process in the house is great. You know, so prosperity is definitely the way to go if you can write them for your client. You know, to get them level.
Fantastic. Okay, and then one thing we like to do, Samir, is when we end the podcast, one of the things we love to get is your perspective on, once again, even though it's been a short amount of time, you've been killing it, you've been doing great. What would you say so far has been the biggest lesson that you've learned in this business so far that you'd like to share with people that are either on joining us live or out there in podcast land? What's the biggest lesson you've learned so far in this business?
If you want it, you'll get it. It's that simple. At this point, right, like I like to put pressure on myself. See, even during this podcast, to be fully honest, I have to say a little bit less than I normally would, only because I'm new. So I don't want to seem like I'm saying too much, because at the end of the day, I haven't done even 1% of the big guys are doing. Holden, Josh, Roger, and a bunch of others. I'm new, so I have a lot to learn. But I think it's very simple. Like if you want it, you get it. Because now, right now, if I fail at this, it's my fault. Before it could have been other people's fault because I didn't know any better, right? But if I did it and it works, and you see other people doing it and it works, now if I fail at it, it's my fault. And I can't sugarcoat it. I can't make excuses for it. I can't put a blame on somebody else because it works. If something works and you do it, it will work. Like if you're averaging 10,000 a month, that's fine. Sit down, break down the numbers, and figure out why you're averaging 10,000 a month. Like I said, you buy 100 leads, right? And you go see 40 people out of those 100. The actual person who, clicked on the ad or filled out the card or whatever ads you're using, right? So if you're doing 10,000 with 40 leads, if you go up to 1.5 of those leads, which would be 60 leads, 60 clients you got to see at 100, well, then you would be averaging 15,000. So if you buying 100 leads and you're talking to 40 of those people, the other 60 you don't reach for whatever reason, then simply go see 60 of those people instead of 40, and you will do 15,000 and see if that works. And that will work because when you see 40 out of 100, you do 10,000. That means you do 5,000 every 20. So if you just go see 60 out of 100, then you'll do 15,000. So sometimes the problem is there is no problem. There's just not enough action. That's all it is. So then mentally you start questioning yourself, oh, I'm not as good of a salesman. I can't do what that person's doing. But the truth is, right, if you, well, like let's say Roger got 30,000 this month, right? I don't know how many leads he buys, but whatever, say he buys 40 a week and there's 160 total leads, right? There's a certain amount of people that he spoke to. I don't know what the amount is, but there's certain face-to-face, right? And next month, if he buys the same amount of leads and speaks to the same amount of people, it's very likely he's going to be in a range of the same number than where he is right now. So if you look at his average, how many people he has to see to sell $10,000, it's not far from each other every single $10,000. So sometimes it's just simply seeing more people from the leads that you buy. And when you knock on the door and they say, oh, my husband's not going to be home till 6 o'clock, do you go back at 6? Or do you just say, well, now I'm going to feel awkward because the wife opens the door again. She says that he's not here yet. So don't go at 6. Go at 7. Go at 7:30. Give him a little time. Just, time for error. So how many people do you actually see from the leads that you buy? Because the one time I bought leads, right? It was Facebook leads. I went to door knock. They were reasonably close. I door knocked 14 leads in one day, which is rare for me. But like I said, they were all closed. And only one person was home. Like, the odds of me doing good was impossible, right? And then I was like, oh, this batch sucks. And then I'm like, why? The batch don't really suck. I haven't seen the people. They just weren't home. So then I worked that batch, and I ended up doing great. I don't remember what the number was, but I sold a lot. So the batch wasn't bad. It's just the people wasn't home. So sometimes, and I left the notes. I did what I was supposed to do, and nobody got back to me. But then when I went back, it was a whole different story. So the batch wasn't bad. I just didn't see the people. So sometimes, like, it's mostly for the new agents. I'm saying this, right? So if you sell 10,000 and you bought 100 leads that month, it's not because you can only, and you're like, wow, how am I gonna do 20,000 with 100 leads? I gotta perform twice as good. It's not that. The performance may be just fine. Just you sold 40 people, now you gotta see 80 out of 100. Now you just simply gotta go back to the same. Like, your average is your average. Whatever your average is your average. And also, also maybe you are seeing enough people, but your AP is not high enough, and it's because you're afraid to show higher prices. So maybe you don't have to sell more policies. You just have to increase your premium. Josh looked at my numbers because I don't know how to do that yet. He said my AP right now, it was 780 something per app. So if we simply drop it down to 600, then I would sell less too. So it could be either you're not seeing enough people or your AP is too low, and you could just bring it up. And the way to bring up AP, a very simple way to fix it is show people higher prices, because sometimes, I have clients that talk about $7,000-8,000 coverage, but then they take $15,000. But if I just give them a quote for $8,000, odds are they would take $8,000. And not only that, it leaves room for another agent to come in and replace your policy to give them exactly what they want, because then they realize $8,000 is not enough. I could have $15,000, and the difference could have been like, whatever, not a lot of money. And in some cases they grab it. Some cases they grab even more. So, and I always tell people one thing, like, look, you won $10,000. Just think about this. If down the line you realize you want more, because funerals cost more money as as the year goes by, understand you're also going to be older. So for you to go up $5,000 will cost more than it will cost today because you're younger. So my best advice is take enough out and don't leave yourself short, because 10 years from now when you want to get more coverage, it's going to cost you more money because you're going to be older. You might be on more medication. You might have different health issues that's going to make that for you to get the $5,000 a lot harder than it is today. So increasing your annual premium, it's just as important, because if you average at 600, right, and you sell 15 policies in a month, right, and whatever that equals to. That's 9,000, right? So you do 9,000, but if you go up to 700, you'll do 10.5. So you didn't sell more policies, you didn't see more people, but you went up $1,500 because you just upsold a little bit. And again, that can help you from another agent coming in and giving somebody a $15,000 policy that they actually need versus your 10.
Well, and then you also made a really good point just a second ago, Samir. That's actually a really, really good point, which is, you've heard Ben talk about it. You've heard other top producers talk about it on the calls. Sharing with them that you're never going to be any healthier or any younger than you are today. That line being put out there is important, and I appreciate you sharing that with us. And we've had a great turnout today, and you absolutely killed it on the podcast today. So we appreciate you spending some time with us and jumping on. And we're gonna have to do this again real soon, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah, no problem, Chase.
All right, we appreciate each and every one of you guys jumping on and joining us live and in real time. We had a great turnout today for the live crowd. If you're listening out there in podcast land and you're not working with us right now, feel free to give us a call. If you want to have a conversation, if you're missing, you're not hitting that activity level that you heard Samir talk about. You don't have leads every week. You don't have a mentor. You don't have the support. You don't have the program. You don't have the platform. If you feel like something is lacking in your business, give us a call today, 800-765-0711. Ask for one of the team members here. We'll get you hooked up. Also, if you have not booked your trip, you have not done anything for the Vegas annual convention, you got to get on it.